Shalom, everybody. Rav Shmuel, Rabbi Stephen, with my yarmulke. It's the small one. I don't know if you can see it, but there it is. So, so this week we get to have Naso, which is the longest parsha of the Torah, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I kind of have to address something, not just with all of you, but kind of with myself. It is getting tough for me to walk that line as a rabbi and not cover controversial topics because it seems that right now we have a lot of challenges going on in our world. Now, I have committed as a rabbi to being as neutral, right, as possible, and or just be neutral. I don't interfere with people's political beliefs. I believe they're all right and they're all wrong if you want to look at it that way. But no, everybody has their opinion and it needs to be respected. And I look at that way with the leaders. When we have leaders in the executive branch, the congressional branch, the judicial branch of our government in Israel, they need to be respected. It says that in the Torah. Respect your leaders, respect your Torah scholars. You may not agree with them, you may not like them, you may not like their policies, but you still need to respect them. And I believe that if you want to criticize your leaders, that's fine. I believe we should all have the freedom to keep them on their toes, if you will. And if they do something wrong, or if they do something that's not that some people don't feel is in the public interest, then it needs to be addressed. But to address people's personalities, let's remember that in Judaism, the commandment, the dictum, the command to not gossip or talebear or demean people, I found at least 8 different occurrences of that commandment in one form or another in Torah. And it's repeated in the Talmud. The prophets have discussed it. So I call it out. And some people may feel that I'm becoming political. I don't see it that way. I don't see it as controversial. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just rationalizing it. I don't know. But as a religious leader, it's important for us to promote peace. And I think if people start getting involved in demeaning and castigating people for the wrong reasons, that's going to lead to, I mean, it has already led to what's going on in our political system. When we started bad mouthing our leaders, for who and what they are rather than what they do, this is when a lot of this hyper partisan stuff started. We can't talk to each other anymore. People get upset, for the littlest things. And I think it's such a waste. Okay. But, it is what it is. And, we've seen that in our history. After King Solomon died, he ran up a massive debt. What they do? They split the kingdom. Okay, you split the kingdom, that's one thing, but the northern kingdom devolved into idolatry. Why? Why not just keep the Torah and just do your own thing? So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. Okay, let's talk about Naso. So we have a lot of things going on in Naso. We have what the final clan, the Kohathites of the Levites, what they carried, the importance, the critical stuff. It was all important. I mean, it's great to have an ark, and the Kodesh Kodeshim, but if you don't have the outside of it, right, you're out in the wilderness, right? So it's all important. We have the Sota, the wayward wife, that is appears to seclude herself with a man not her husband. And by the way, the punishment is for both of them. It's not just the woman gets punished if she does if it's found out that she did do the wrong thing. The man does too. He's equally as guilty. Okay? So let's establish that right away for all you Me Too people, okay? And you women's advocates, which by the way, I'm one of them. Hey, I told you I was kind of quirky. That's who I am. Then we have the Nazarite. This was Samson. You don't cut your hair. You don't drink grape products. You don't touch a corpse to, do the final rites. You remain a little bit more pure during the time that you have taken the Nazirite vow. Okay, so we have those two. Then we have the offerings of the various tribal leaders. And this is where our triennial portion comes in. Now, I'm going to read to you. I'm going to have to read. I wish my memory was better, but um, I like to have the cheat sheet to make sure I tell you what it is. This is out of the Art Scroll. This is the Orthodox commentary Chumash. And they go into the symbolism of the various offerings. Now, each on 12 successive days, yes, even Shabbat, one of the tribal princes, and when you look at it, it looks like they came up with their gifts based on how the Torah arranges them in their formation, in their muster. So the first couple of days, it was Judah who led, the organization of the tribes around the Levites. And then there was Zebulun and oh gosh, Zebulun and not Naphtali. Gosh, there were two of them. I'm drawing a blank here. This is embarrassing. But the next ones I'll remember it later after I sign off. Then it was Reuben with Simeon and Gad. And then it was Ephraim with Manasseh and Benjamin, Rachel's sons. And then it was the next two sets were Bilhah and Zilpah's sons. Zebulun and, gosh, it's going to bother me. Okay. But they all brought the same thing. All the leaders brought the same thing, and it was all from their treasury, but it was on behalf of their tribe. Now, why does the Torah go into that? Because it wants to show you, in my mind, the dedication of all the various tribes and how they felt about contributing to the temple. They all wanted to contribute. Let's talk a little bit about the symbolism and the numeric value, really, which was the symbolism of the various gifts. So the first offering was a silver bowl, and the gematria of the silver bowl, the value of the Hebrew letters, comes to 930. 930 was Adam's age at death, and its weight was 130 shekels. That's a coin. It's a silver coin based on its weight. The age when Adam and Eve had Seth. They had the silver basin was the value of that based on the letters was 520, 500 for Noah's age when God approached them about the flood. And then we had 20 years later, he gave birth to his first son. I'm sorry, 500 was when Noah's age, when his first child was born, and then 20 years later was when God told him about the flood. 70 shekels for the 70 nations descended from Noah. One ladle, the one hand of God that gave us the one Torah. The incense, 613 mitzvot. Now they substituted a couple of letters based on the kuf for a dalit, because sometimes you can substitute letters at the beginning of the alphabet with letters at the end. Like there are times when you can substitute an aleph for a taf, a bet for a shin, and so on. And that comes to 613, which was the amount of mitzvah. One young bull, Abraham used as an offering. The ram, okay, which replaced Isaac on the altar and from whom we get the shofar. The sheep for Jacob tending the sheep for Laban, his father-in-law. The he-goat was a sin offering for the brothers that sold Joseph into slavery. 2 cattle for Moses and Aaron, and how they brought peace between Israel and Hashem. We have the concept of 2 there. We also had 3 groups of 5 animals, and those 3 groups also pertain to the Kohanim, the Levites in Israel, and also the 3 parts of the Tanakh, Torah, prophets, and writings. So that was the symbolism of the various offerings. So it's interesting how you have different levels of Torah analysis. Now, we could very easily say, okay, well, those were artifacts, articles that were needed in the temple for carrying out the offerings. Yes, but there's also that deeper meaning. And I wanted to kind of bring that to you and read it to you, even though I thumped for it a little bit. I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to correct it. I'm human. Sometimes I make mistakes. It is what it is. And, God didn't create us perfect, so we'd have something to do in life. Otherwise, it'd be real boring. I know some of you, some of us would prefer a boring life, but it is what it is. And don't you feel good when you overcome a challenge? Doesn't that feel great? That's the whole part of life. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, a little early. Thank you for listening and thank you for tolerating my indulgences, and see you again.